right. Again, thank you all for joining us this evening for the March meeting of ANC3C's Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee. We had 2 items on the agenda for this evening. We now only have one. The other item we will be hearing next month. So without further ado, we will get started with the application for a special exemption at 3519 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. And the special exemption is to allow a new fast food establishment at this property. So, Zach Williams, you are here representing your client, correct?
I am. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Will you need to share your screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let me just go ahead and make you a co-host. So hopefully the share thing appears there at the bottom.
It does. I see it now.
Excellent. All right, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks so much. My name is Zach Williams. I'm a land use attorney at Venable, and I'm representing Wonder in this case. And with Wonder, we have Jason Botcher, who's representing the applicant here tonight. And he's also on the call, and I see that he's logged in. So he'll be assisting me with the presentation as well, and also the Q&A. So I do have a brief presentation that I can start with. Go ahead and share my screen. Y'all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the proposed application for Wonder, which we'll get into what Wonder is in a second here, is at 3519 Connecticut Ave Northwest. This is in the Sam's Park and Shop. Just to orient folks, this is the former Wygant Wines location, now vacant, which is where this proposed use would be going in. So before we get into the zoning, we did want to talk a little bit about what Wonder is all about. And let me see, I see Jason on here. Jason, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. I'm going to hand the floor over to you to talk a little bit about what Wonder is all about.
All right, great. Zach, since you are controlling the PowerPoint, I'll just let you know when it's a good time to change slides, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So appreciate everybody taking the time and participating, and really looking forward to giving you a quick introduction to who we are over here at Wonder. I am going to open this up and say that I'm particularly excited about this one. My grandmother used to live right next door to the zoo, so I spent a lot of time in this neighborhood as a kid. So rather excited to be going back where I have some rather fond memories. That said, Wonder is a relative newcomer in the QSR world, the quick service restaurant world. And we are a relatively unique case. And that's really based on how we approach our business and our strategy towards the restaurant world. How we set ourselves apart is we partner with chefs and restaurants from across the country, celebrity chefs like Bobby Flay, Marcus Samuelson, Michael Simon, and then best-in-class restaurants across any number of different cuisines, like Fred's Meat and Barbecue out of Atlanta. Maidon is actually one of our partners. Obviously, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with Maidon. Unfortunately, we will not be able to offer them here in Cleveland Park, but Tejas Barbecue just outside of Dallas. And what we do is we work with these chefs in these restaurants to recreate their menus and their recipes in our kitchens using our production techniques and processes. And what that enables us to do is to provide a wide variety of different cuisines and different restaurants out of one location. So if you want to change the slide, that would be good. And so really that's how we set ourselves apart. The other side of it is we are also very, very tech forward. The company was founded just pre-COVID, and it was an entirely different model that I don't need to explain. And we had made a pivot to traditional brick and mortar about 2 years ago. But like I said, we are very tech forward. So a vast majority of our business comes through mobile ordering. We do have our own Wonder app, and that is 70 to 75% of our customers order through our app. But we're also available on any number of third-party delivery applications as well. And so that includes like Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, things like that. And ordering through the app, like I said, that's a vast majority of our business. We're able to provide any number of uh, ordering styles. So if you wanted to eat in, you're able to eat in, but again, you're still ordering mostly on your mobile app, and that's what we see from our customer trends. Also offer delivery and pickup. And so this Cleveland Park location is a prime example of our target demographic, our ideal type of location inline store development because of accessibility to transit, accessibility to a wide, diverse customer base, and then being adjacent to similar uses or to complementary uses that we like to be surrounded by. So that's really the high level of what Wonder is. We do offer a variety of additional amenities in store. So, like I said, there is some limited dine-in. We don't offer traditional wait staff, but we do offer in-store order kiosks for those who prefer to order on site or do not have the mobile application. Along with pickup shelving units for those that are picking up, customers that are picking up, or for couriers who happen to be coming to the site for delivery. So there are some unique circumstances with this site. And this parking lot, if you're familiar, is gated. The good thing is a vast majority of our couriers are expected to be bicycle couriers for this site. Depending on the location, the composition of delivery drivers that are utilized, it's really dependent on the availability of local infrastructure. For urban locations such as this, what we've seen is a vast majority of those delivery couriers are using bicycles, which is great for us. But this site is also gated. Like I said, this parking lot is gated, and we've already had those discussions with our landlord or prospective landlord here. There is a 15-minute grace period on site, and so couriers would be able to enter on site, run inside, grab the order, and then they would be off site before that 15-minute grace period passes. Other than that, that's really kind of the high level. I know Zach has an aerial on the next slide. This gives you a bit of an overview of where the site is located, which is pretty representative. It's a great location, located right in front of a metro stop, and not far from the Kennedy Warren, where my grandmother was, oddly enough. I don't know if you need me to talk through the zoning map, but if you want to go to the next slide, this just shows you the zone that we are located in, which is right at the corner of, I believe that's Ordway and Connecticut Avenue. And Zach, the next slide. Do you want me to go through the layout as well?
Yeah, before we get there, just to set the stage a little bit, the reason that we are before you is that we have met with the zoning administrator on this, and there was an acknowledgement that this use doesn't really fit neatly into any of the designated uses in the zoning regulations. But it probably fits best into a quote unquote fast food establishment, which is an old sort of antiquated definition. When we think about traditionally fast food, it doesn't really fit the use, but it seems to fit it better than any other. And so that's part of the reason that we need to get special exception relief here, is that technically in the NMU4CP zone, which is the neighborhood mixed use Cleveland Park overlay zone, fast food needs a special exception. And so that is why we need to have zoning relief for this particular case, even though I think, Jason, I think it's a misnomer to call Wonder fast food, but that's just the box that we're in this particular circumstance. I do think, Jason, you should point out there are going to be other locations in DC. This won't be the only one. And those other locations will be in other neighborhoods. So they won't necessarily be serving this neighborhood. In fact, they most likely would not, I would expect. This one will be, exclusive to the Cleveland Park and surrounding neighborhoods, correct?
Yeah, so I was going to touch on kind of our expansion plans, but happy to do that now.
Yeah, go
So
for
I
it.
had mentioned we had shifted to brick and mortar about 2 years ago, and in that 2 year period, we have opened about 40 locations at this point, mostly focused in the New York City tri-state area. So a few up in Connecticut as well, a few out in Pennsylvania through a partnership that we have with Walmart, or a pilot program with Walmart. And then beyond that, we are now in through 2025 and 2026, we'll be opening in the range of 140 to 150 additional restaurants by the end of 2026, and another 50 or so by the end of this year. And that expansion does include from Boston and the Boston suburbs through Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland. In D.C. proper, we expect 4 to 5 locations to be open this year, and hopefully this Cleveland Park location would be one of them.
Right. So you want to stick with you, Jason, to talk a little bit about the layout here?
Sure. Yeah, so I had mentioned we do offer in a dine-in, and this gives you a rough understanding of our proposed internal layout and the floor plan. I do want to apologize for the back of house. It just says equipment groupings, and there's a few reasons why it just says equipment. One of the reasons is we don't necessarily show all of the specific equipment except for on our construction plans for trade secret purposes. And then also, the exact back of house design is, I'm not going to say in flux, but it's still being fine tuned. But the focus here should really be on the front of house. And you will see some photographs, some representative photographs, but we will be providing seating for about 15 guests. Like I had mentioned, we don't necessarily have a traditional wait staff, but we do have a front of house ambassador who is there to assist customers and couriers with anything they may need help with, keep the space clean and presentable. And more importantly, for those customers that have never dined with us before or don't have our app, there to walk them through the menu and how those self-serve kiosks work. And one of the things we do see with first-time customers, for example, is that they don't recognize you can order off of any number of different menus in one order. And so Mark Lurie, who's our founder, he likes to just describe this as a solution for the dinner time conflict that everybody tends to have when, go ahead, John. I see a hand raised.
Oh, we're not going to take questions until
Gotcha.
you're
Okay,
done with
fair
your
enough.
presentation. So we'll get to that. Thank you.
Sure. So like I was saying, Mark Lurie, who's our founder, he likes to say that this is the solution for the conflict and the fights that happen at dinner time. You have the family all wanting different things, Chinese, pizza, maybe Thai food, and we provide a one-stop shop where you would be able to order any number of those things, all in one order, all delivered at the same time, so the family gets to eat together and they get to eat what they want. But if you want to, so we do have front of house is fine. Yeah. So this is some representative photographs of the detail that we put into of our front of house. It is incredibly important to us that the color and the color scheme and that design is really welcoming, very warm, and very intuitive. Again, thinking about those first-time customers. So when you walk in, the first thing you usually see is a centerpiece with the self-serve kiosks, usually a monitor placed overhead, kind of giving you an overview of the brand, what Wonder is, and what we offer to anybody that might be walking into the space. The seating area, again, all focused on being warm, welcoming, inviting, wanting people to stay. And even if they're not staying to eat, if they're just there to pick up, we still want them to feel as valued as somebody that might be deciding to sit down to eat in store. The previous slide did have a small rendering of proposed signage for this location. I know not necessarily a part of the scope here in our discussion tonight. But I did want to provide you guys with at least an illustrative example of what we expect we would be doing here. And so this being a historic district, everything would be in line with the general guidelines and regulations for signage. And we want to make sure that we're respectful to the history of the neighborhood and this strip center in particular. I know there's some stringent sign guidelines here. So we want to make sure that we're not necessarily standing out but also not blending in. So, truthful to our brand, but also respectful to the historic district and the historic context.
Great, thanks, Jason. So I'll turn to the zoning quickly here before we end and wrap for a Q&A. As I mentioned, this is a special exception use, and it's to establish a fast food location. Now, to be clear, there will be no drive-through. You heard about the interior seating of 10 to 15 guests, and orders will be placed through the online app or through self-serve order kiosks, actually on site. Whenever we think about special exceptions in DC, we generally think of two standards that we try to meet. The first one is that the use should be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning regulations. The NMU 4CP zoning district is a neighborhood district, but it's also a district that encourages and welcomes neighborhood serving commercial uses. And given this is in an existing shopping center, and I'm sure folks are all very familiar with, this is a perfect location for a use such as this. We already have parking. There's already established retail base there. It's complementary of the other uses. We already know that it's across from Metro, and it's easily accessible by foot as well. So it's a really ideal location, we think, for this use in Cleveland Park. The second general standard that we have to meet is that the use should not adversely affect neighboring properties. And we usually think about light, air, privacy, noise, all of the big things that neighbors care about and want to make sure that they're not being overly impacted by a use. Again, here, as you all know, we're in an historic shopping center. It's been there for a very long time, so long, in fact, that it's been landmarked, as you all probably know. The parking lot is actually part of the landmark itself. And we will not be making any changes to the exterior of this site or building at all, other than the signs. So nothing will be changing on the exterior of the building. It'll continue to be a retail use, replacing a former retail use. All of the operations in the building will be oriented to the front of the site, not the rear. So that front of the house will be fully accessible and exclusively accessible from the front where the parking lot is. Everything else will be tucked away. The hours of operations are proposed to be 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Again, with the hope that that minimizes impacts in the morning, early morning and later night hours to residents and neighbors. There will be no alcohol served at this location either. So that's just an important point that we often get with uses such as this. Wrapping up, and Jason's already touched on a number of these things, so I just wanted to end with some of the nice renderings here of the storefront operations and what Wonder is all about. You've already heard most of this from Jason's presentation, and this, I think, is our last slide. So I'll end here on this slide, and if folks have questions, we are available.
Super, thank you. If you guys want to take this down so I can see anybody who might be raising their non-virtual hand too, we're gonna well, I'm the only commissioner here, but we also have community committee members, so they'll have an opportunity to ask questions too. And I apologize that Jay, who is the commissioner for this single member district where this is located in, and I know Zach, you've met with him, and hopefully Jason, you had a chance to meet him as well. Unfortunately, there's a fire in his building. Everyone's fine as far as we know. So he could not join us this evening due to that, and I don't believe he was the one that said it, so nothing he can do there. So I guess I wanted to start out just asking, one, have you guys been scheduled for a hearing yet at BZA? Because I know that it's on file and you sent the notice to the neighbors within 200 feet, correct?
We did. We have not been scheduled. I've been waiting for a call from the zoning office to get that meeting date, but we don't have it yet.
Okay. Because as the ANC, we just want to make sure that we're not operating too far ahead of when that hearing date is set, and then we have to go and redo a vote on like a resolution or anything.
Yep.
And then one of the main things it seemed like that zoning was trying to solve for with fast food and this like thing about it, among many other that I have opinion on, but it was trash.
Hmm.
Your trash situation, like front of house, I'm assuming like you're not having people sitting around like eating out of packages on like the sidewalk there and not putting things in litter bin.
Yeah, there would be no sidewalk cafe or anything like that associated with this location. We do use disposable containers, but we have excessively large trash facilities in the front of house. Um, and then obviously typical refuse at the rear.
Okay. Yes, and that will be set up to accommodate like food production, whereas it previously served wine, which was mainly cardboard trash. So you'll take steps to mitigate any kind of like rodent infestation, possibly.
Correct. Yeah, we our typical program calls for two 8-yard dumpsters that are closed, and then picked up 2 to 3 times weekly, or as frequently as necessary to keep the space clean. But we also have separate rodent pest control and an environmental group that we work with across our entire program to manage rodents and pests inside and out.
Okay, great. Those are a lot of the major concerns that we usually hear. With that, John?
Uh, I have a second question that I'll ask you first because you just brought up the rodent control. Have you thought of installing trash compactors? Because at least from I have no expertise, but what people say in this neighborhood, Woodley Park, is that the compactors can make a big difference in the rodent control. Obviously, the wine store didn't have any rodent issues. There are other restaurants on that. There are restaurants on that strip. I don't know what they're doing back there, and there might be opportunities to share resources with the Thai restaurant and other things on that strip. But the question I was going to ask was really, excuse it, but it's kind of a nerdy question to Zach about why is this fast food in the zoning code? Why isn't it a food delivery establishment, which might not help your, it might not obviate a need to go to the BZA, but fast food has kind of a bad sound to lots of people, and your food delivery operation might not have have the same connotation because
Yeah.
it looks a
John,
whole.
can you let him answer? Because he actually has to leave in 6 minutes. So I just want to, sorry, make
I'm
Okay.
sure.
sorry.
That's
I
fine.
have another presentation, believe it or not, at 7. It's a packed night. I want to get to you though, and if I can't get to your question, I want to make sure we follow up. We assume this will be the first of several meetings.
Yep.
So we had that discussion. The answer is, I think there's a couple of reasons. Number one, well, first of all, food delivery would also require a special exception.
Right. No,
Secondly, there just is not enough delivery service here. I mean, a food delivery service is something like a Domino's where they're primarily delivering. Yeah, they might have a table in front, but like that's not the primary
a
business
food delivery
purpose.
service is
Yeah,
defined as being the 75% or more.
right.
And it sounds like what your operation is going to be is the more than the 75% delivery, but maybe I was just hearing it wrong.
I think we've talked about that and we discussed that with the zoning administrator, and
Mhm.
actually it really depends. I mean, I think Jason, you've told me that in some cases there actually are a good number of folks who eat. They're eating, they're ordering takeout, but they're eating it there.
Yeah.
Um, They're not having it delivered, or they're picking it up. And here in this location, given that you're surrounded by the neighborhood and it's so accessible, there's also an expectation. A lot of folks will come and just pick it up rather than having it
Pick it up
delivered.
and take it home. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so our expectations here would be about a 60-40 split, maybe even less than that, 55
Okay.
45. It's a very walkable neighborhood.
Yep.
And what we've seen across our footprint is that walkable neighborhoods lead to more pickup.
Okay, if you're at your 60-40, then that answers my question. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from community committee members? And then Cassandra will give you a chance. Anyone else? Okay. Cassandra?
Thank you, Janelle. I just want to say welcome to Cleveland Park. I'm the director of Cleveland Park Main Street. Very excited to have you all. I know that you're going to be expanding into what was the Capital One space next door. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of construction. I was just curious, what is the timeline for all of this?
So we tend to move really fast. So our usual build times would be 8 to 10 weeks, depending on any local restrictions that we might have in terms of construction time or things like that. The great thing is this is a commercial center, so mixed use buildings, that timeline would be extended because of residential above. But given that this is a commercial center, we're really able to take full advantage of any restrictions or any limitations on construction hours and really get it done quick. We move fast in every way. As a startup, it's a grueling battle. It's a marathon and a sprint all rolled up in one in every aspect of the business. But yeah, 8 to 10 weeks for build time usually.
Wow. And when do you anticipate starting? I guess once you get this changed, the zoning changed. Okay.
Yeah, once we get through zoning and permits get released, they'll be ready to go the following week.
Wow. Okay. We are having an event in the parking lot on June 8th, and it sounds like you might be open by then. So that might be a problem with the delivery drivers coming in and out.
So just based on what
That
we
will be
expect the
open by
timeline
then.
to be for BZA,
You won't?
yeah,
Oh,
No.
okay.
I would love that, but I don't think that's going to wind up happening.
Okay. We'll talk about it next year.
A 90-day process alone. So also just a note on that, since you guys are going to be doing interiors construction in a commercial building, if you want to look into after hours permitting, if you're going to be doing quiet work, during more hours of the day, reach out to Jay, let us know to get you guys open a bit faster. I think this is a great addition to the community in a space that, was so long held by the wine store and now has been nothing for a bit. So I see no problems, from what we're hearing from folks in the community right now. And as long as you're mitigating the trash.
Yeah, we will
Understood.
absolutely be on top of that. Absolutely.
Oh, one more thing. I know Janelle and Jay are extremely helpful, but I'm also available to help you guys if you need assistance. And I'm happy to introduce you to the neighbors, whatever you need, the neighboring businesses.
Yeah, more than happy to take advantage of that. I'm happy to pass on your contact information to our government relations team, and then our store opening team who kind of coordinate ribbon cuttings and things like that. And then also, we do quite a bit of we get involved with quite a bit of community organizations, food banks, things like that. So there's a lot of overlap there in terms of what you're trying to do and accomplish and what we're looking to do as well.
That's good to know too, because we do have a number of really active food pantries in the area that are always looking for some help there.
Great.
In both Cleveland Park and Woodley Park, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of crossover audience too. Don't forget to mention that Capital Bike Share station that's right outside the shop.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's a great location and a great neighborhood. I'm waiting for an excuse to go down there to see the site because I haven't been down in that neighborhood for a while. But I had a lot of good times down there, a lot of great memories.
Awesome.
It's been 20 years since I've been to the zoo, but I can walk through it in my head still.
I've lived across the street for almost as much time at this point.
Mhm.
And one of our committee members also lives in the Kennedy Warren.
Oh, go
It's
figure.
Kathy.
Hi there. You know, if you come on down to our neighborhood, I'll bring you over to the Kennedy Moore and you can check out what it looks like now and see if it's what you remember. But I
Do
think
you
you'll
still
like it
have
a
the
lot.
signature howl in the hallways from the elevator banks?
Not exactly, but you'll see a lot of things that are familiar and a lot of things improved.
Great. Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Well, I thank you both for your time. Keep us posted as to, your timelines moving forward with BZA. And yeah, however else we can help you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Does anyone else on the committee have any other business they want to discuss at this time, since our other presentation has been moved to a following month?
I mean, there's the perennial question of what's going on at the Macklin, I suppose, but and then any updates on the Uptown.
So the Macklin is currently under construction again. They do have after hours permit, so they're working as hard and as fast as they can. I believe the townhomes are supposed to be finished spring or
April-ish.
summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. People tell me April. I push it to June.
Smart.
But and then the apartment home shortly thereafter. So progress. I see them working on that courtyard in the front a lot. And then the Uptown, we haven't heard anything from them since when they came to present to us in, I want to say November, because I felt like it was
Yeah.
outside. So I can try and reach out to them, but I'd expect that if they had an update for us, that they'd come to us and provide it. I know I was going to reach out to them anyways, because we're sponsoring a bike to work station, an official stop in
Mhm.
front of the Uptown, and I wanted to provide them the opportunity that if they had something like a board or something they wanted to like have available at that opportunity, so I can use that as another excuse
Yeah.
for any other general updates, not just on like participating in the bike to work day.
You know, also I haven't heard much more from the mayor about the her rental act, you know, the all caps RENTAL act, which basically kind of puts a dart into TOPA rights. But I don't know if the committee is interested or if the ANC is interested at some point in looking at that and having any thoughts about it. I mean, she announced this before we got the gloomy budget picture from the CFO. So I don't know exactly where that's going, but what it does, among other things, is says if you've got a market rate building, you really don't have any more TOPA rights. So if somebody wants to come in and I think you're probably aware of the ANC3F discussion about what's happened at the Avalon, where people came home one day and there were a whole bunch of tables in the lobby and they were told, hi, we think we're going to be the new owners. How do you feel about us? But anyway, that sort of that was a big stir up conversation. Apparently, I was on our call, so I didn't hear it, but it's a big topic of conversation in the Van Ness territory. So anyway, I don't raise it because I have an agenda or a goal myself, but just we might want to take a look at the Rental Act and think about what impact does it have around here. The concern is does the city want to sort of broker to folks who, I mean, the people who are coming in at the Avalon are an affordable housing provider. And we're kind of telling people all about what their new, rules were going to be for who lives in the building and the number at 60%, the number at 80% of median income. such, and people were asking, well, wait a minute, we're rent stabilized people. Are we going to be kicked out? What are you doing? So it has caused a flap, as I say, up there, and that's a big building, so there were a lot of people concerned. But I don't know whether we're interested or not. Just raise it.
Yeah, it is kind of a fire hose of information at this point in time. Is it the residential building permit classification emergency declaration?
No, it's just all caps RENTAL. I don't know, at the time that she announced the bill, it had not been introduced. And every once in a while, I try to check and see if it has been introduced, and haven't heard. I'm supposed to meet with Matt Fruman's guy next week after their two hearings on their DHS hearings are on Wednesday and Friday this week. And so their housing guy just said, give me a break, let's do that next week.
Yeah,
So I'll have a little more information. I can just send you what I find out.
I was listening in on the housing one today, a bit, and yeah, and I believe Chair Mendelson did say something about when this would be appearing on the legislative calendar, which I think is actually going to be in April, and they want to vote on the emergency then, was what briefly went across my feed, but it's not on the calendar for tomorrow, although this hasn't been updated today, and he does this legislative meeting brief thing today. It was earlier this morning. But yeah, I mean, I haven't read the full thing in detail yet. I'm aware of it. It sounds not great, and a bit confusing right now. But yeah, let's take a look at it, and after you meet with Matt, have a think on what we want to do.
Look it up.
But yeah, I mean, all these programs with the upcoming budget are just, it's not going to be great. And the other thing is, like, with this being the first year after COVID that rental increases on rent controlled buildings have been allowed to happen, there's just a lot of confusion and like unsettlement about like that change, that I think that the folks that were testifying at the housing oversight today really are struggling to address.
Yeah, I didn't have the opportunity to watch today. I had some other appointment thing. So I'll have to try to find out what went down actually on that committee meeting, if there was anything of substance. But what
Yeah. I mean, it was all day. I didn't listen to the whole thing all day long because I too have a real job and like things.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was like listening in from time to time. And yeah, it was a lot. So
Was it the usual kind of just like we're gonna go through this like for 8 hours straight and not stop at all, kind of thing, the usual Robert White kind of show?
absolutely, because it was 4 agencies: DC Housing Finance Agency, Department of Housing and Community Development, Housing Production Trust Fund, and the Rental Housing Commission. And it was both the public witnesses and the government witnesses. So it was like 126 people before you got to the 4 government witnesses that run, in my opinion, some very different agencies and different scopes of work.
Well, it's interesting. There's been a little bit of a change in approach here to the rental increases. Our building is 3/4 rent stabilized, and everybody gets the same increase, and that's taken place per usual. And the increases for the elderly folks is about the same as what the increase is on I'm in the newer section. And so we are not rent stabilized, and our rent increases were very, very modest as they were last year. So we are not increasing even quite as fast as the rent stabilized area, because our rent increases are lower than they are for the non-elderly in rent stabilized. In other words, if it's 5% for the non-elderly and it's 3% or something for elderly, you know, we're running more at the 3% to 4% increase. And you know, that's indicative that, and they've given us our, you know, we all have staggered terms, you know, because we don't have a once a year thing. And you know, we've all received our leases for consideration way ahead of normal time. So I think that's indicative that there is, you know, a difference in the way they're thinking about the rent increase. And, you know, I can't take it all the way to the conclusion of, you know, does this mean they think we're in a soft market or something? But I do wonder how the big new facilities like City Ridge and Upton Place are doing. I do not have an impression that they are doing all that well, given that City Ridge, for example, has been, you know, in operation now for quite a long time. You know, they should have been through kind of their rent up phase. So I think that's all interesting,
Yeah.
you know.
And you have the Marriott, your property coming
Yes,
on
it
later
is.
this year with another 900 units. So that will also have an impact on the, you know, on the competition for different rental units.
But I think you can see where my thinking is going, which is, you know, if the mayor's proposing to eliminate topo rights in some of the you know, conventional buildings, and particularly those that may not generate all that much money because they're heavily rent stabilized properties. I think that it raises questions about whether there is, you know, a plan for any transfers of properties there that you know, that we want to be aware of. It's not like, oh yeah, there's something terrible happening. It's just, okay, what is happening? Let's just keep an eye out. That's all.
That's fair.
I mean, you assume that they have a plan, and I have not seen any plans for anything coming out of the Bowser administration in years. So you,
And I think that you're probably right.
than I,
I do assume that there's a plan, and you're probably right that there isn't.
I was kind of counting on John to make that comment there, by the way.
And I don't mind a bit. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, wake up. Everybody's not thinking about us.
Yeah. And yeah, the one of the buildings down at the Wardman site is supposed to deliver spring, and then the second one by the end of the year. So they should be starting lease up soon, if they haven't already.
No, I think they start in May to, you know, to start to lease in one of the buildings for people to move in July, and that's the building with the smaller units, and you know, and the greater number of units.
Yep. Oh, and I should also mention Jay and I met with a woman-owned small business that's also interested in coming into where the Truist Bank space used to be, existing and well-established. She will be coming to present her ideas to us hopefully next month.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, so a nice little wine tasting situation.
Mhm.
I think it's the people that own Cork down in Logan Circle.
Oh, is that right? They're the same people? Uh-huh.
But yeah, a lot of great things going on. So Okay.
All righty.
Anyone, anything else? Last call? All right. Enjoy the rest of your evenings and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.